Let me ask you something. When was the last time life knocked you completely flat? When was the last time you wanted to quit? Quit the job, quit the diet, quit the dream, because it just got too hard? Most people would answer that honestly, because most of us have been there. Now, what if I told you that one man grew up being beaten by his father, regularly, brutally, that he struggled so badly in school he could barely read, that by his mid-20s he was 300 pounds, working the night shift spraying cockroaches, and felt like his life was already over? And what if I told you that same man went on to become a Navy SEAL, not once, but surviving 3 brutal hell weeks, that he set a world record for pull-ups, that he ran 100-mile ultramarathons on broken bones, and that today, he is considered one of the toughest human beings who has ever lived? His name is David Goggins, and the book he wrote, Can't Hurt Me, isn't just a memoir. It is a manual, a step-by-step guide for transforming your mind into something unbreakable. In this video, I'm going to break down the most powerful lessons from this book. Lessons that could genuinely change how you think about pain, about limits, and about what you are actually capable of. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might be exactly what you needed today. Can't Hurt Me was published in 2018, and it became a monster bestseller almost immediately. And honestly, it deserved every single sale, because unlike most self-help books that give you pretty quotes and tell you to believe in yourself, Goggins does something completely different. He shows you his wounds. He puts his worst moments on the page and refuses to dress them up. The book is part autobiography, part mental toughness masterclass. Goggins grew up in a home full of abuse and trauma. He failed. He struggled. He was told he wasn't good enough, over and over again. And instead of using that as an excuse to stay small, he used it as fuel. The central idea of the book is this: most of us are only operating at about 40% of our true potential. We stop when things get uncomfortable. We tap out right before the breakthrough. And the life we could be living, the version of ourselves we could become, is trapped behind a wall of self-imposed limits. Goggins calls that wall the mind. And this book is about how to break through it. Let's get into the lessons, and I promise you, these aren't the kind you forget by tomorrow morning. The first major lesson in the book starts in Goggins' worst moment. He's standing in front of a mirror. He's overweight, miserable, going nowhere. And for the first time in his life, he decides to stop running from the truth. He looks at himself and he lists out loud every single thing he's been avoiding, every lie he's been telling himself, every excuse that's kept him stuck. He calls this the accountability mirror, and it is brutally simple. Here's what most of us do. We talk to ourselves in a way that protects our feelings. We say things like, "I'll start Monday," or "I'm just not a morning person," or "I've had a tough childhood, that's why I am the way I am." And maybe some of those things are true. But Goggins says, so what? Truth without action is just an excuse with better vocabulary. Think about it this way. Imagine you had a friend who lied to you every single day, told you what you wanted to hear instead of what you needed to hear. You'd stop trusting that friend eventually, right? But here's the surprising part. Most of us have exactly that kind of relationship with ourselves. We are our own worst enablers. The accountability mirror exercise is simple. Write your goals on sticky notes. Put them on your mirror. Every morning, look yourself dead in the eye and ask, did I do what I said I was going to do? No judgment, no sympathy, just honesty. Because until you're honest about where you are, you can't figure out how to get where you want to be. So here's what I want you to do. Start tonight. Look in the mirror and say out loud, one thing you've been avoiding, one truth you've been running from, just one. That's where transformation begins. Here's a question for you. When does your mind tell you to stop? When you're on that treadmill and your lungs start burning. When you're working late on a project and your eyes get heavy. When you're in an uncomfortable conversation and part of you just wants to walk away. Goggins says your mind tells you to stop. Way before your body actually needs to. It's a survival mechanism. The brain is designed to protect you from discomfort. But in the modern world, that mechanism works against you constantly. And the only way to override it? Callous it. Just like skin toughens up from repeated friction. Your mind can be trained to handle more pain, more discomfort, more pressure, if you deliberately expose it. Here's a real story from the book. Before Goggins could even attempt Navy SEAL training, he had to lose 106 pounds in 3 months. That's an almost impossible task. He started running, and he couldn't even run a mile. His knees ached. He wanted to stop every single session, but he kept showing up. And every time he wanted to quit at the 2-mile mark, he'd push to 3. Every time 3 felt like enough, he'd go to 4. He wasn't just training his legs, he was training his quitting reflex. Teaching his mind that discomfort isn't a stop sign, it's just information. And this is where most people make a mistake. They try to avoid hard things until they feel ready. But readiness doesn't come before the hard thing. It comes because of it. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick one thing that's uncomfortable and do it when you least want to. A cold shower in the morning. That difficult conversation you've been putting off. The workout you keep skipping. Do it specifically. Because it's uncomfortable. That's the training. Now this next lesson might change how you think about your limits forever. Goggins believes, based on his own experience and backed by research in sports psychology, that when you feel like you've hit your absolute limit, you're actually only at about 40% of your true capacity. 40%. That means when you feel completely done, there's still 60% left. That sounds crazy, right? But think about it. Have you ever been exhausted, truly exhausted, and then heard something that scared you or excited you, and suddenly you had energy you didn't know existed? That's the 40% rule in action. Your body didn't change, your mind did. Goggins talks about running a 100-mile race with stress fractures in both legs. By mile 70, he was practically dragging himself forward. His feet were destroyed. He had blisters inside blisters. And here's what he said to himself. You are not done. Not, you can do this. Not a motivational speech, just a simple refusal to accept that this was the end. There's something incredibly powerful in that, because most of us quit in the space between where we are and where we could be, not because we truly can't go further, but because the mind makes a very convincing case that we shouldn't. Next time you want to quit something, whether it's a workout, a project, a hard day, pause. Say to yourself, I'm at 40%. What would it look like to give just a little more? You don't have to find 100%. Just find 41, then 42. That's how limits expand. Okay, this one is one of my personal favorites in the entire book. Goggins describes a concept he calls taking souls. And no, it's not about revenge. It's not about being petty. It's about something much more powerful. It's about using the moments when people doubt you or underestimate you as pure rocket fuel. Here's the story behind it. During his first attempt at Navy SEAL training, the instructors targeted Goggins specifically. They thought he didn't belong. They made him do extra runs, extra push-ups, extra everything, trying to break him, trying to make him quit. And instead of crumbling, he decided to outperform every single person there, not just to survive, but to make the instructors who doubted him watch in disbelief as he excelled. Taking souls means every time someone says, you can't, You decide in that moment to make your performance the answer, not your words, your work. Think about the people in your life who've doubted you. The teacher who said you weren't smart enough. The boss who passed you over. The person who said your dream was unrealistic. Now imagine turning every single one of those moments into a reason to push harder, not to prove something to them, but to prove something to yourself. Because here's the truth, nobody can motivate you like the person who said you couldn't. Write down one person or situation that made you feel like you weren't enough. Now channel that memory the next time you need to push through something hard. Don't get mad, get disciplined. Let their doubt become your drive. Here's a question. When things get really hard, what do you reach for? Most people reach for distractions, social media, food, Netflix, anything to escape the discomfort of the moment. Goggins reaches for something different. He calls it his cookie jar. The idea is this: throughout your life, you've overcome hard things. Maybe it wasn't running 100 miles. Maybe it was getting through a painful breakup, finishing a degree while working 2 jobs, recovering from an illness, showing up when everything told you to give up. Those moments, they're your cookies. And when things get hard, when you're in the middle of something brutal, you reach into that jar and pull one out. You remind yourself, I have done hard things before, I can do this too. Goggins used this constantly during endurance events. When his legs were failing him at mile 80 of a race, he'd mentally pull out a cookie, maybe the memory of getting through Hell Week or surviving his abusive childhood, and that memory would carry him forward. Now here's the surprising part. Most of us don't even realize how many cookies we already have. We dismiss our past victories. We think they don't count because they weren't big enough. But Goggins says, every hard thing you've survived is proof that you are stronger than you think. Grab a notebook. Write down 5 to 10 hard things you have survived or accomplished, big or small. Every single one counts. That is your cookie jar. Next time life gets hard, open it. Read from it. Remember who you are. In a car engine, there's a part called the governor, a device that limits how fast the engine can go, even if it has more power available. It's there to protect the engine from damage. Goggins says your mind has a governor too, and most of us never remove it. Our governor shows up as the voice that says, that's enough, or you've done well today, or don't push too hard. It shows up as the habits we've never questioned, the routines we've never challenged, the ceiling we've built over our own heads, without even noticing. The way to remove it isn't dramatic, it's incremental. Goggins tells a story about running. He could run 5 miles comfortably, so he started running 6. When 6 became comfortable, he ran 8. He kept bumping into his own limits, and then pushing just past them. Not by doubling his effort overnight, but by adding a little more, consistently, over time. And this is where most people make a mistake. They try to go from 0 to hero in a weekend. They start a diet on Monday and give up by Thursday. They sign up for a marathon having never run a mile. And when they fail, they think the problem is the goal. But the real problem is that they skipped the progressive overload. Remove your governor 1 mile at a time. 1 extra rep. 1 extra hour. 1 extra uncomfortable conversation. The engine opens up slowly, and then it roars. Identify one area of your life where you've been playing it safe, where you've been comfortable for too long. Set a goal that's 20% harder than what you normally do. Not 200% harder, just 20. Do that consistently for 30 days, and watch what happens to your sense of what's possible. This lesson might be the most practical one in the entire book, and the easiest to apply starting tomorrow. Goggins is obsessively intentional about his time. He wakes up at 3 in the morning, not because 3 a.m. is magic, but because it gives him hours of productive time before the world wakes up and starts demanding things from him. He schedules everything: workouts, meals, work blocks, recovery. Everything has a slot. Now, you don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. But here's the point: most people drift through their days. They react to whatever comes at them: emails, notifications, other people's priorities, and then wonder at night where the time went. Goggins says, time is your most limited resource. You cannot earn more of it. You cannot borrow it. And every hour spent on autopilot is an hour that belonged to the version of you that you claim to want to become. Think about how most people spend their evenings. An hour of TV here, 30 minutes scrolling there, another hour just passing. And then they say they don't have time to work on their goals. But the time was there. It just wasn't protected. Tonight, before you sleep, schedule tomorrow hour by hour. Not every second, but anchor your most important tasks to specific times. Wake up, work out, work on your goal. These are non-negotiables. Everything else fits around them. Do this for 1 week, and notice how differently your days feel. This is the final, and in many ways the most important, lesson in the book. Goggins became a Navy SEAL. He broke world records. He ran ultramarathons. By any measure, he was already extraordinary. And here's what makes him different from most people who reach that level. He didn't stop. He didn't cash in his achievements and coast. He didn't look around at the uncommon people he'd surrounded himself with and feel satisfied. He pushed to be uncommon, even among the uncommon. And this is where most people, even highly motivated people, make a mistake. They set a goal, hit it, and then unconsciously relax. The diet becomes a maintenance phase that slowly turns into the old habits. The fitness routine plateaus because this is good enough. The ambition softens because they've already proved something. But Goggins says, the standard never drops. Not because you have something to prove to the world, but because you've made a commitment to yourself. And keeping that commitment is the only way to truly respect who you've become. Greatness is not a destination. It's a daily decision. You decide it every morning. You decide it every time you want to quit. You decide it every time life gives you a reason to lower your standard. Ask yourself right now, in what area of your life have you accepted good enough when you know you're capable of more? Not in a self-critical way, in an honest, loving, challenging way. Write it down and commit, just for the next 30 days, to raising that standard by 10%. Let's bring it all together. Here are the 8 most powerful lessons from Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. 1. The accountability mirror. Stop lying to yourself. Face the truth about where you are and what's been holding you back. 2. Callous the mind. Pain and discomfort are the tools, not the obstacles. Lean into them deliberately. 3. The 40% rule. When you think you're done, you're barely halfway there. You have more than you know. 4. Taking souls. Let doubt fuel your discipline. Let underestimation be your secret weapon. 5. The cookie jar. Your past victories are proof of your strength. Carry them into your hardest moments. 6. Remove the governor. Expand your limits gradually, consistently, and without apology. 7. Schedule your life. Protect your time like it's the most precious thing you have, because it is. 8. Be uncommon amongst the uncommon. When you reach a high level, don't coast. Raise the standard again. I want to say something to you directly before we close this out. You watch this video for a reason. Maybe you're going through something hard right now. Maybe you feel stuck. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign that things can actually change. Here's the sign. The story of David Goggins is not about him being superhuman. It's about what happens when a regular person, A broken, beaten down, struggling person decides that their circumstances do not get to write their story. He didn't start with advantages. He started with a childhood full of trauma, a body full of limitations, and a mind full of doubt. And he turned every single one of those things into ammunition. You have ammunition too. The rejections, the failures, the hard days, the people who doubted you, the times you fell apart. All of it. It's all fuel. And the only question is whether you're going to leave it sitting in the tank or ignite it. The mind is the most powerful thing you own. Not your talent, not your circumstances, not your connections. Your mind. And Can't Hurt Me is essentially a guide to becoming the owner, not the prisoner, of your own thoughts. You don't have to run 100 miles. You don't have to become a Navy SEAL. But you owe it to yourself to find out what you're actually capable of. When you stop letting comfort make your decisions for you. Because on the other side of the hard thing is the person you've always wanted to be. And that person is waiting. If this video hit different for you, if even one of these lessons made you think, I needed to hear that, please hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who might need it too. And if you want more deep dives like this, where we break down powerful books and pull out the lessons that can actually change your life, make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, which lesson from Can't Hurt Me hit you the hardest? Was it the 40% rule? The accountability mirror? The cookie jar? Let me know. I read every single comment. Until next time, stay hard.